Hi, Team Claradora. Welcome. Everyone in the AMA, come on into AMA chat so we can see you. Everything just about going here. The YouTube stream should be going, so I just need to grab the link, put that in the archive, and we'll be heading on off here. Hi, T1. Good to see you. Okay. Bit of a late start, but I appreciate your patience. Quite a bit to talk about today. So let's dive in. And of course, as questions come up, please drop them in AMA chat or AMA questions. We do have a few things to cover, like I said, so let's jump into it. First and foremost, we were able to speak in the SwapX Sonic Founders Hangout space today and had some nice alpha discussed. So hopefully you were able to listen in. And I'll mention a couple of those things throughout today's AMA. Just some general updates. Preon has been listed on DApp Radar. So this is to help you gain a better understanding of Preon's on-chain stats, historical on-chain activity, as well as smart contracts. So if you have not had a chance to check that out, be sure to do so. Hi, Oligorn. Good to see you. Please also check out, if you haven't already, the updated Advent calendar rules. And please refer to the Preon Finance Discord announcements for more details. Essentially, the goal of this event is to foster organic and meaningful community engagement. So you are all encouraged to contribute to the community by sending thoughtful, relevant, and engaging messages in public channels, specifically the main chat on the Preon Discord. And please note that spamming or artificially inflating your message count, such as through repeated short messages, is prohibited and will lead to penalties. And indeed, Weil Harbor included, congrats to those who have won been one of the winners for the Daily Star giveaway. All right. Other updates, hopefully you've seen, we have launched Preon and Star liquidity on 2 new dexes the past couple weeks, Thruster on Blast and Thana on the BNB chain. So you can now deposit liquidity and earn LP incentives on those dexes, as well as on Phoenix for Preon Star and Star USDB. And we also have, of course, the Star concentrated liquidity pool, stable pool on Aerodrome as well. So collectively, this helps us build incentives and liquidity for Star and Preon, and hopefully will encourage people to deposit collateral into Preon. In addition, as mentioned on the SwapX on Sonic, the spaces, or I'm sorry, as mentioned on these spaces, we hope to launch on SwapX as well on Sonic. Sonic is an EVM layer 1, so hopefully that will be another successful expansion of Preon and Star. Indeed, indeed. It is what it is. All right. So regarding the stable concentrated liquidity pool, you must, I did want to mention this as well because we saw this coming up in the chats. You do have to utilize the narrowest custom range in order to earn the maximum arrow APR. So please try to make the range close to or around 0.9999 and 1.00001. That will ensure that you get the most out of that those returns. Now, that's not financial advice, of course. You do not have to use that narrowest range. That does increase the risk that you are out of that pool, but the whole point of the AMO is to help keep the peg stable, to sustainably support that level of concentrated liquidity and minimize the amount of rebalances needed. So this is just one example and glimpse at the ultimate goal of stability for Star, and the AMO has been very effective in doing that thus far. All right. Additionally, the STAR concentrated liquidity pool bribes have changed significantly with varied guidelines based on bribe recycle. Sorry, very. The STAR CL pool bribes have changed significantly based on varied guidelines and based on bribe recycling. So those two factors can change how much we're able to bribe and what that resulting yield will be, and that will continue to fluctuate. So I think it's important to understand that. Another thing to mention about the AMO that has come up in the chat is that the ratio of the AMO is calculated internally based on balancing of various metrics, and that is subject to change over time. We've also seen a lot of questions about how the AMO actually works, and we are in the process of updating the Preon documents to better explain that, and I am also working on a video for this Friday as well to better break down visually what is happening with the AMO. All right. Any questions about the AMO for now? If not, we will press forward. Okay. So for next steps, let's talk a little bit about Preon v2. So hopefully you guys have seen that Sim has been pretty active in Preon's main chat, dropping some hints of what is to come. So for example, the upcoming iteration of Star, which will be single-sided, no impermanent loss, that earns market rate yields, as well as yield from the new product, something similar to SDI, but different. This was also talked about, this next part was also talked about in the spaces, but Preon v2 will also bring reinvented capital efficiency for concentrated liquidity, a 0-to-1 innovation, so Sim says, that will unlock capital previously locked, essentially focusing on collateralizing concentrated liquidity pools in a specific and unique way. And as we had mentioned on the spaces, this may be live on Sonic first, and again, Sonic being an EVM layer 1 platform. At this point, we are polishing the code and aim to get audited soon, and also plan to put a license on the code so that it will not be forked, because we do believe the innovation is worthwhile. All right, taking another pause there. Any questions about Preon v2? When? Of course. Well, I think tentatively, what has been discussed in main chat is perhaps between Q1 and Q2. But, and I get into this a little bit with the last question I have in AMA questions, it really can vary because it also depends on external factors such as auditing times, how long the auditing team takes to get back, and then also what is based on what's discovered through those audits. So we have tentative timelines, but we prefer not to give anything, set in stone because again, there are things outside of our control that can change that. All right. Indeed. And that's okay. Oligorn says, I feel like all the OGs that are listening have already asked all the questions to be asked. Yeah, and you know what? That's okay. I think it's better for people to not have that many questions, frankly, because hopefully that means that we're doing a good job in the chats answering questions and with other content as well. to help people understand, where we are with processes and what's going on. So the fact that there aren't that many questions, I think, is a good thing. All right, so then in that case, I will jump to the AMA questions that we've had since our last visit. I'm going to show them on screen for a little while, but then we'll go back to the AMA chat. The first is from YL Harbor, the OG. So I have a question on the Sphere token by the perspective of the team. Since the ecosystem is really a yield maximizer, and like the other two new partners, no actual token is being needed for benefit or benefits this process. Since the team has only switched to this field after some other thoughts on what to do with the project, would you launch a token if you didn't have Sphere yet? I don't see how it would benefit the ecosystem until all the functions can operate without a token, and it currently only eats money from the Preon Dyson gains through YL Sphere. So I do see what you're trying to say here. Essentially, if Sphere was never launched, would it have been better to wait for the ecosystem to be fully launched prior to releasing Sphere? If I'm understanding your question correctly. And I think this is a complicated question to answer because it involves a lot of what-if questions. So when Sphere was launched, it launched at a very good time to raise initial capital. Capital that was then preserved by and large very well throughout the bear market. And that capital was then able to be used to continue to build out the Sphere ecosystem. So another way of looking at it is that if Sphere had not launched first, there never would have been capital available to build the ecosystem in the first place. Another point worth mentioning is that Sphere is the core of the ecosystem, such that all roads are intended to lead back to Sphere. So from a user conceptual standpoint, I think it is easier for Sphere to be tangible, as in, okay, this is the center of the ecosystem, because for some users, the other projects are too complicated, and it can be hard to kind of grasp everything that interconnects within the ecosystem because there's a lot of overlap and complexity. So one of the positives of the ecosystem is that there are those varying levels of complexity for those different types of users. And Sphere is more or less the simplest to use and understand, right? You can just yield lock Sphere and receive yield. You don't have to worry about collateralization and your risk of liquidation. You don't even necessarily have to understand liquidity pools, right? You can just simply essentially stake Sphere under a time lock and receive yield. So ultimately, being that the ecosystem is being built for Sphere, I think if given the chance to do it again, the team would likely make very similar decisions. But it's a very thought-provoking question. I think it's a very interesting question, and hopefully it was a satisfying response. You're very welcome. All right. Next question was from Plob, who said, I suggest making videos titled something like Make $1,000 per month in DeFi and show how one could use Preon and Sphere or partner products and protocols to achieve that or gradually build up to that. And as Pandu replied, that is legally a bad mood, I'm afraid. So basically what this boils down to is that we cannot advertise guaranteed returns, as this is generally ill-advised. We can showcase, for example, the amount of voting incentives we offer. We can showcase current APRs. We can talk about strategies and so on. But anything that promises a return, like $100 a month or $1,000 a month, is frowned upon and could be met with legal issues. And even if we don't mean to relay that message, if it can come off that way, then we really have to avoid that type of language. In a similar vein, though, community members are always welcome to talk about how much they've made. So, for example, in the hashtag share gains in the Discord, you're more than welcome to share what you have earned. But even there, it's a reflection of past earnings, and future returns are always unknown because APRs and prices and other factors can and will fluctuate, and that can fluctuate sometimes significantly over time. So we simply cannot guarantee anything into the future. And as I'm sure you all know, with the rapidly changing environment in crypto and DeFi, even less can be guaranteed. And there's a lot that has to change in order to maintain competitiveness and innovation within the ecosystems. But I do appreciate you trying to help out and giving us ideas for how we can potentially reach different people and get people into the community. So I do appreciate the thought behind the thought. All right. And then the last question I have is from Mad Mike Delta, who commented about an updated Sphere roadmap and a rehash timeline of projects and milestones. So this is largely unchanged as compared to what we have previously discussed, though we have had some really great progress towards these goals. So Preon V2 is our primary focus with some interesting developments in the works, as we've talked about. So as Sim had mentioned in the main chat, we're currently doing a private test round of Preon V2, and we'll be sending the code base to get audited soon. And as I mentioned earlier, the auditing timeline can vary depending on the auditing team and what is discovered through those audits. We also plan to put a license on the code so that it won't be forked. As I mentioned, we believe the innovation that Preon V2 will bring is something people might otherwise wish to copy. So we think that additional step is worthwhile. Now, while all of that is in the works, we have continued to work on incentivizing both Preon and Star liquidity, as hopefully you've been able to see over the course of the last couple of weeks. Preon V2 will also allow us to lean more into Dyson with the synergies between Dyson and Preon. And of course, still on the roadmap is the upgrade to Sphere's tokenomics, as well as the new protocol, which is still yet to be announced, but has been able to make good progress behind the scenes. So ultimately, there's a lot that will be revealed and released for the coming altcoin season. And we're continuing to prepare the ecosystem to be as ready as possible for that renewed interest in DeFi that really is already beginning to become evident. So yeah, that's more or less all I have to say about that, and that should be the conclusion of those questions. So that is more or less what I have for today's AMA. Unless anyone else has any other questions here in AMA chat. While we wait and see if anyone has any questions, so just looking again towards the future, especially this week, we hope to get out some more content to help describe the AMO functionality a bit better. So that is very much in the works. You've seen we're continuing to push out Preon and Star liquidity. So as we talked about in the spaces today, we're looking at SwapX, which will be coming on Sonic, the EVM layer 1. And that is potentially where we can launch Preon V2 as well. And yeah, that's more or less where we are. What made you go on Sonic? There's a few things. The basics are that it's a fast, up and coming layer 1. So when we have opportunities like that, it's good to take advantage of that. And that more or less goes into the other factors as well, which is when there are good opportunities and teams that are good to work with, then we want to take advantage of those. And sometimes it also gives us opportunities to be first, have that first mover advantage on new and upcoming dexes and ecosystems. So we when those opportunities come up, it's usually in our benefit to take them. I also see Rux typing, so and doesn't mean only, indeed. Preon and Star being omni-chain tokens means that it is very easy and streamlined for us to launch them on different chains. And as you've seen with the Preon bridge, pretty quickly we can integrate the bridge to go to any chain that we need to, such that users can send Star and Preon in order to participate in that yield. Hmm. Oh, T1. Whatever shall I do with you? All right, very good. Any last questions? And again, while people go through that, here's your weekly reminder that we're coming up on the change of the epoch. So if you have any wild sphere in Dyson, please check on that and see if you have to either withdraw or relock your sphere. If you have any governance tokens, be sure to vote in order to earn incentives. I want to see Sim on Pump for Phone live stream. Okay. Good, good. So I guess with that, I do appreciate everyone's time, and hopefully I was able to answer people's questions. As always, if you have further questions, drop them in the different chats. You guys have been awesome in participating in the Advent calendar and being very communicative. Any idea if we can start getting updates in community notes again? We would like to. Yes, it's kind of one of those things that ebbs and flows in terms of where we want to distribute information. So I'll talk to Pandu and see if we can get that to be more of a consistent thing again. Rux is typing. Or perhaps not. Okay. All right. Yes, that's a fair point as well. It kind of depends on the updates that we have available to offer in the community notes. But I'll talk to Pandu and see what can come of that. But yeah, I think with that, we will end things off. Thanks everyone for participating, for being here, for asking your questions. Thanks again for participating in the main chats with the Advent calendar. I will see you all in another couple weeks. I have to check the time on that though, because yeah, we'll have to see. I think well, maybe coming up, I may have a scheduling issue for next time, but that all will be revealed in time. Always remember that you matter for who you are, and have a good rest of your night. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.